Hello, I'm Bill Van Amberg.
And I'm Alicia Gildy. On behalf of CalSTART, we want to take a moment and thank every single one of you who have taken the time to join our CCTU community. We do this for you, but we couldn't do it without you. Also, we want to remind you that our weekly content will be released on Tuesdays, with our first live broadcast of the year on Tuesday, January 25th at 11 a.m. Pacific.
And when you're ready, be sure to stay connected by following us at CalSTART on Twitter or signing up for our live releases or watching on demand on our website.
And we will CCTU in 2022.
Well, it is 2022 and we are back, and it is so great, everyone, to be back and to see you and to see all of you for our first edition of the Clean Commercial Transportation Update for 2022. A new year and a new day, Tuesday, which is really quite super. As always, I'm Bill Van Amberg, and I'm so happy to be back with my great partner and colleague, Alicia Gildy. And by the way, a real quick call out, Alicia, congratulations on the new title, Vice President of Clean Fuels and Infrastructure. So well deserved, Alicia.
Bill, thank you so much. And I have to tell you, I am so appreciative of the mentorship you have provided through the years, and you've just been the best partner. And I am super excited to be back here with you and all of our friends at CCTU. It is CCTU Tuesday, a new day for our 30-minute broadcast, and we hope a great way to inspire the beginning of the week for our clean commercial transportation community. We do want to take a moment, though, to thank our wonderful creative team for making CCTU possible. Many thanks to Jennifer Manfrey and Whitley Porter, who are executive producers, Amir Sharik for making our graphics, Max Lemieux, who's going to be running all of our controls, and then our dear Carly Magnan is managing our chat.
So super to have a team to get this job done. Well, we've got a lot to cover. In this month's broadcast, our focus is really on federal policy, is so critical as 2022 begins. We'll talk about the significance of getting infrastructure funding out the door and implemented fast, copper in the ground, if you will, and supporting the expansion of commercial zero-emission vehicles. There remain a real big suite of policies that we need to support a zero-emission and zero-carbon future. To walk us through all of this, one of our great guests is going to be CalSTART's new Vice President of Policy, Jessica Olson. So excited to have Jessica on our team and to have her joining us this morning.
That's right. And we're so excited to have Jess on our team. So welcome, Jess. Excited to have you on our program today. Well, and to further our discussion on federal policy, we are bringing on two of CalSTART's wonderful members, Alana Lagdon of Nikola Corporation and then Heidi Sickler from Amply Power. These two leaders will join us in a conversation to discuss the importance of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and how the incentives for charging and fueling infrastructure can benefit the clean commercial transportation industry.
And the timing is so critical on that. So lots to discuss, lots to plan for in 2022. Let's get right into it. And Alicia, let's start off with a poll we've got for everybody.
Oh, well, good. And we're talking about the federal legislation, and in particular, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and the opportunity to provide guidance to federal government on getting infrastructure funds out and in use fast. All right, so the options for everyone to select from. All right, first up, enable commercial vehicle access. Second, encourage timely interconnection with utilities. Third, prioritize investments to support the states that are adopting the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. And then lastly, leverage other state and private investments. These are all very important recommendations, but which one is atop at your list?
Yeah, tough one to choose from. I got to tell you, we've been talking about the need to get policymakers really realizing that commercial vehicles need that infrastructure now. It's not just passenger cars. So that certainly is high on my personal list, but those are all important.
That's right. Well, and let's see. Right, Max, what are folks saying? All right, this looks pretty good here. So enable commercial vehicle access. Love that. And that's absolutely the message that we want to be sending, is that we need to enable our commercial vehicles to have access to this infrastructure. So great. And then secondly, I would think would be the interconnection with utilities. And we do need to be working with our utilities to make this market possible. So, hey, great, everyone. Thank you so much for that good feedback.
That is good, and people definitely get it, and that's what we're going to be working for and talking more about during the program. But let's move right into the news now, because there's a lot going on in our industry, particularly since the last time we met. And a lot of it's going on in the policy world, not just the technology world. One of the biggest news items that we've been following is there are now 6 states that have essentially adopted California's advanced clean truck rule regulation, or at least the framework of it. Following California's lead, we now have Oregon and Washington on the West Coast, and New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts on the East Coast. So 6 states essentially have adopting this. This means they're setting targets, probably starting in most of those states in 2025, that ramp up towards 30% of all commercial vehicles being zero emissions by 2030, and then ramping up beyond that. A groundswell that really could put some pressure on federal policy action as well, Alicia.
Bill, that's fantastic. And you know what's great? To complement that, we're just continuing to see these emerging advanced battery electric trucks getting on the road. And in particular, I would love to highlight that Volvo Trucks announced the next generation of their Volvo VNR electric Class 8 trucks. Production is set to start in the second quarter of this year with a new model offering faster charging, more configurations, and up to 85% more range. This is fantastic. The VNR electric can recharge up to 250 kilowatts, allowing the truck to gain an 80% charge in 90 minutes, Bill. So we are looking at the future of long-haul transportation along our corridors.
Really are, and it's so exciting because we're seeing many of the manufacturers on almost a yearly cadence just add capability and range and a variety of features. So this is really expanding fast. It's also expanding on the lighter side of commercial vehicles. So really exciting to see FedEx be the first deployment partner for GM's delivery trucks. That's called the Bright Drop EV600. GM is going to deliver a total of about 500 of these to FedEx, but the first 5, at least you got to start somewhere, are on the road at the end of December. This one has a range of up to 250 miles, 600 cubic feet of storage space, and this is really going to be a breakout application in terms of this last mile delivery option. These vans are part of FedEx trying to reach total carbon neutrality by 2040. So really exciting to see 2 big partners moving forward here.
Oh, that's great, Bill. And you know, what we're going to need to do is make sure that we have the transportation infrastructure to support these zero emission trucks and commercial vehicles. Really excited to announce that CalSTART, in partnership with the Electric Power Research Institute, have been awarded $13 million to develop high power megawatt charging along key freight corridors in Southern California. This is a community first driven project that will be working through a public-private partnership to strategically locate high power charging along our freight corridors. We're really hoping that this project will become a template for replication in California and beyond.
Well, really getting that in the right places and at the right power levels, that is so exciting. This is a breakthrough project worldwide. We've had a lot of people talking about it. Also, one thing that's interesting is the new partnerships, not just on the charging side, but on the vehicle side. So Proterra has actually turned into a really powerful supplier into the commercial vehicle segment. They have teamed up now, the most recently, with Nikola to provide battery packs to Nikola for their Tre electric trucks, but also for their fuel cell vehicles that are coming. We're learning very soon beyond that. The first of those trucks are going to be produced probably in the fourth quarter of 2022. But there are already some of them hitting the line. But this new partnership shows that Proterra is not just about buses. They're actually providing full battery pack capability into the commercial vehicle segment. Very exciting.
Oh, that is super exciting. And Bill, I know that we've been talking about California's first of its kind zero emission infrastructure incentive project for commercial vehicles. Well, CalSTART is pleased to announce that our project, Energized Commercial Vehicles Project, funded through the California Energy Commission, is live. We are going to be rolling out our first wave of funding later this first quarter of the year. So please stay tuned, but check us out on the website. We have an infrastructure readiness center where we are looking to provide support to our commercial fleets that need assistance as they look at their infrastructure needs. But I just want to give a big shout out to my wonderful Clean Fuels and Infrastructure team for working so hard for moving this project forward.
Yeah, you and the team have done so much great work with the California Energy Commission to make this happen, Alicia. That's kudos. And the world is watching how we get this out faster. Well, let's move right from that because it's so salient into our decision maker segment, our next segment. And we're going to be joined by CalSTART's new Vice President of Policy, Jess Olson, the first policy VP we've had at CalSTART. Jess, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here for this segment. It's great to have you with us at CalSTART.
Great to be here. Thanks so much, Bill.
Well, the first thing we want to do is really put you on the spot. That's what we do here at CalSTART. We'd really like to get a lay of the land. You know, this is such a critical year for moving important, both funding out the door, but also getting additional policies in place. Can you give us a lay of the land at the federal level for policy and implementation? And very specifically, if you can add to that, what are CalSTART's priorities on moving the infrastructure funding work and making progress on Build Back Better?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. You know, really important questions. I think on the congressional side right now, everybody's wondering about what's going to happen with Build Back Better after we had the historic funding come across in the infrastructure bill last year. Right now, the current focus is really on appropriations. Congress is currently operating under continuing resolution, and they've got to agree on an appropriations package for FY22. There's a February 18th deadline. So it's very unlikely that Congress will meet this deadline, but in the meantime, they've got to pass another short-term continuing resolution as appropriators negotiate over a spending package. It's really sucking a lot of air out of the room because, of course, this is all happening in the foreground as negotiators quietly discuss the future of the Build Back Better Act. I want to say that for the infrastructure funding in the legislation passed last year, CalSTART has a number of priorities. We're working to partner with states so they can use the recent influx of federal funding to stand up their own incentive programs, similar to the HVIP voucher program in California. We're working to educate state departments of transportation on how to use funding from the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, or CMAQ fund, to incentivize purchases of zero-emission, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles. CalSTART can also support school districts and EPA on technical assistance for the new Green School Bus program, and help our members with the Low-No program. We're also, of course, Alicia's team is hard at work providing comments to the FHWA for the new charging and fueling infrastructure grants and the national EV charging grants to ensure that that process is really well informed with industry expertise. Our comments to the RFI will help inform the administration's policy for the grant program's rollout and help with ease of use by the eligible entities. Of course, on the Build Back Better side, we worked really hard on a few tax credits that were in the House passed version. We're looking at the tax credits that'll be key to continuing to drive the clean transportation industry, like a new tax credit for zero-emission trucks. We're also looking at other foundational policies, like an investment tax credit to really expand US battery manufacturing and additional incentives for electric passenger vehicles. It's going to be a busy year for federal policy here at CalSTART.
Well, Jess, thank you. And you've given a wonderful overview of what CalSTART's looking to support and move forward. And of course, working in close collaboration with our CalSTART members. And yes, hard at work putting together the response for the Federal Highway Administration. Just want to ask you, we understand that the Build Back Better is stalled at the moment. What are the key issues there? And are there any hopes of gaining momentum?
Well, I think it's a little too early to tell whether it's stalled or not. I think as Congress deals with the annual appropriations, it must also come up with a new strategy to pass the president's domestic policy agenda. There have been some recent public statements from Senator Manchin about including the climate provisions and some other tax provisions and maybe a smaller package. But the senator has also stated he wants a package to deal with inflation and the national debt, a really tall order for a partisan spending package. There is hope that Congress will develop a clear strategy before the March 1st State of the Union to give President Biden some momentum moving into this year's midterm elections. But February will prove to be yet another make or break month for many of the provisions included in the Build Back Better Act, including tax provisions that are critically important to many of our members.
Yeah, that is a really big deal. And so with that kind of launch window that you've talked about to make something happen, what can our members do best to get some of these key provisions, particularly that tax credit for zero emission trucks is close to my heart. What can they do to keep that on the table and keep this package moving?
That's a great question, Bill. Now is a really great time for our members to reconnect with congressional offices that they're close with, and maybe some that they aren't. While there isn't specific text out there being discussed, we can certainly point to the House passed Build Back Better provisions as something that needs to stay in whatever package comes together. Those tax provisions will help zero emissions, medium and heavy duty vehicles unlock currently untapped economic and environmental potential, and members of the House and Senate need to be reminded of that. Having champions on the very important tax writing, Ways and Means and Finance committees will greatly increase our chances of keeping our provisions included if a smaller climate-friendly package ultimately comes together. Now is not the time to sit on the sidelines.
No kidding.
Jess, we're so lucky to have you on our team. Did I say that already?
I'm happy to be here.
Oh, well, great. Well, soon we're going to be talking to our friends at Nikola and Amply Power about the recently enacted Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. When can we expect funds to be moving forward and from the agencies that are involved?
That is the $1 million question everyone is asking right now. And it
It's
largely
more like
depends
$1 billion question. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes, $1 billion question. It really depends on where the funds are coming from. Some of the funding was provided through formula funding, which has already gone out to the states and metropolitan planning organizations. And we've already seen some of that funding be put to work by these entities to invest in their infrastructure projects. Recently, a senior advisor and infrastructure implementation coordinator, Mitch Landrieu, spoke to the U.S. Conference of Mayors to share a list of upcoming infrastructure grant opportunities. Those include applications to the Port Infrastructure Development Program grants, which can be used to electrify ports, which will be available in this first quarter of 2022. The FTA bus and bus facilities, including Lono program, will also accept applications in this first quarter. The Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grants program is still accepting comments, as you know, Alicia, on program design through Friday, January 28th. And the Notice of Funding Opportunity process will start after those comments are considered. The EPA Clean School Bus program will likely start accepting applications for funding later this spring. It is such a transformational and exciting time for clean transportation as all this historic funding is deployed.
Well, I know our policy action groups and our work with our members, we've got a big, we'll be talking more about it tomorrow, a federal policy summit that we're holding virtually. Just real quick, Jess, as you're feeding from a fire hose, or maybe you're charging from a megawatt charger, whatever analogy we want to use right now. Are you encouraging members to reach out to you with any questions they may have so that they can actually coordinate and align with what we're trying to get to happen?
Absolutely, Bill. We have so much going on here, as we've just talked about. And we love to have our members engaged. They really are the engine, electric or otherwise, that drives this car. So please reach out.
Great. Thanks so much, Jess. It was great to get a chance to visit with you and to have you on board. And so many big efforts you'll be leading right out of the gate in 2022. So your skills are sorely needed and will be tapped.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, getting this funding launched in politics right is really critical, and our members and next guests can really attend to how important the timing of it is. Alicia, that's what we're going to be talking about in our member highlight segment.
Oh, yes, I'm super excited about this. Two really wonderful leaders in the field that we're bringing to this discussion. Well, we're joined by CalSTART, two of CalSTART's members, Alana Lackman, who is the head of government affairs and global policy at Nikola Corporation. And then we have Heidi Stickler, who is the director of policy and market development with Amply Power. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. And we are excited to get into this discussion. And I know that we're working with you on the side here in terms of our comments that we want to be submitting. And I know that you guys have been working hard on that. The first question we have is about the investments supporting the zero-emission transportation future that we would love to see. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act outlines critical investments for zero-emission and clean fuel infrastructure through the EV charging infrastructure and charging and refueling infrastructure programs. How do these investments support the infrastructure needs that both Nikola and Amply see critical to advancing clean vehicle adoption, and in particular, clean commercial vehicle adoption? Maybe, Alana, we'll start with you first.
Sure, great to be with all of you today. And Bill and Alicia, great to see you. Happy New Year. We're off to a very quick start here at Nikola, and I'm telling you that this charging and fueling infrastructure program couldn't be more timely. We are in the midst of getting these vehicles off the line and starting to be delivered to some of our launch customers. So it's critical that this infrastructure investment and funding associated with it gets out the door to support the use cases of these vehicles. Some may think and wonder why commercial transportation didn't have a stronger role when this whole discussion and narrative of transportation electrification came about because commercial vehicles have very predictable routes along high commercial corridors, both regionally and across the country, and of course have very high impact to frontline communities and their health. So reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from these vehicles, from commercial vehicles in particular, is incredibly important. It's going to be interesting to see how the funds are deployed in considering various variables, use case, technology application, whether it's battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell in Nikola's case, and customer fleet's needs. So for example, Nikola's battery electric vehicle, our Tre BEV, can go up to 350 miles on a full charge. So take into consideration what that infrastructure ecosystem looks like is going to be very interesting comparative to other vehicle manufacturers and BEVs that may be out there operating on a different operational cycle. Our hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, our mid-range, which is just around the corner. We have 2 of them that have just come off the line and are currently being delivered. That is a mid-range vehicle that will be going 500 miles, which can have regional application or even in between state applications. And then we will have our sleeper cab that is on a fuel cell vehicle that will go up to 900 miles. So in summary, considering all of these different technologies and applications is going to be very interesting to see how these infrastructure dollars are deployed and what type of criteria is going to be utilized to support all of these use cases and customer fleets needs.
Alana, is so important. The technology is here. The benefits it can bring to communities is available. We got to make sure that we have investments to support the commercial vehicle technologies we see on the roads today. Well, very good. Heidi, what do you think about this?
Well, great to be here. Good morning, Alicia and Bill. Thanks so much for inviting AmpliPower to join you this morning. And thank you for CalStart's continued leadership on fleet electrification, including your amazing energized commercial vehicle team. We're really excited about the launching of that program. So for those of you who may not know AmpliPower, we simplify and accelerate the transition to EV fleets and protect fleet operators from the variability of electricity prices through our charging management and services. So I invite you to check us out at amplipower.com. With regard to your question, Alicia, I think there's consensus. We can all agree that President Biden's historic, this is a big, huge investment in EV manufacturing and charging infrastructure, is a very, very clear indication that there is an overwhelming urgent need to scale up quickly and broaden access to clean transportation for everybody. And commercial vehicles are going to play an important role in that. There's an equally growing and urgent need to scale up and broaden access to charging infrastructure to serve not only light duty passenger vehicles, but also electric school buses, transit buses, and truck fleets. These are essential fleets of last resort, which mainly use in-depot charging. However, currently, as Alana mentioned, US DOT's $5 billion National EV Formula Program and the $2.5 billion Competitive Grant Program are restricted to public charging infrastructure sited along federally designated alternative fueling corridors. Electric school buses, transit buses, and truck fleets could scale more quickly if they could access these federal dollars to meet their in-depot charging needs.
Well, so I think all of us are really at the point where we're realizing, and we want policymakers to realize how critical it is to just move forward on this and not delay and make sure commercial vehicles are in the mix of this, because it's holding back a lot of fleets' ability to deploy and vehicle makers' ability to sell. So the Federal Highway Administration right now has released a request for information, an RFI, on the guidance for electric vehicle charging and infrastructure deployment. What do you see as the top recommendations, the top 2 recommendations you guys would make for ensuring the successful administration of these incentives in the federal government to accelerate commercial zero-emission vehicle adoption? And Alana, let's start with you again.
Thanks, Bill. Well, I would first stress that and hope that the Federal Highway Administration recognizes that there needs to be acknowledgement of medium and heavy duty commercial vehicles in the program. So this is not just a passenger vehicle focused deployment, infrastructure deployment program. That the way that infrastructure is deployed for passenger vehicles is going to be very different than for commercial vehicle applications. So that's first and foremost, and hopefully that is very well identified and how the funding is going to be allocated and how the program is going to be administered. I would say secondarily, I would hope that the infrastructure planning effort is not done in a vacuum. That's to say, we don't just want, this infrastructure being put just anywhere. It needs to be very well informed. We need to have the right stakeholders participating around the table to where it's going to go. Fleet's needs to be taken into consideration, as well as, again, we need to cite the infrastructure based upon, is the electric load available? What are the siting requirements and everything that needs to be taken into consideration to get streamlined permitting in place to get these facilities in the ground and quickly. And so I would just hope that all those variables are taken into consideration, and that the infrastructure is deployed strategically and where it needs to be used, because the last thing that we want is stranded assets out there without being well utilized by the end user. So we hope to see those things taken into consideration.
So commercial vehicle priority targeted, where you put them where the first best use is and where you can actually tie in. That's super. How about you, Heidi? What would you add to that? What are your top two to guide the federal government?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bill. So first of all, I just want to thank USDOT, a fantastic team over there led by Andrew Wishnia, formerly at EPW, and Chelsea Sexton over at USDOE. They've just been tremendously helpful with their leadership and guidance. We can do it without them throughout this RFI process. It's been fantastic working with them. I couldn't agree with Lana more. I think that we definitely need to enable commercial vehicle access and encourage timely interconnection with utilities, which is what your survey results showed. I think here in California, where Amply is headquartered, we are running into some serious issues with regard to accelerating the interconnection and service upgrade request process. But through Amply's technology, we can really help solve those problems for fleet operators. But obviously, we'd love to see how USDOT can help further incentivize the streamlining of these processes. And as Alana mentioned, it's great to be able to have somebody like USDOT facilitate that much needed coordination between the state DOTs, USDOT and USDOE, excuse me, to identify the best areas along these federal corridors or other locations where there is available power at the distribution level. So completely agree with Alana's perspective.
Well, Heidi and Alana, thank you so much for your leadership, for the partnership and innovation that you drive. Really appreciate working with you all on these comments, and for your putting in your own comments. This is fantastic. Well, and speaking of innovation, I got a chance, Alana, as you know, to get behind the wheel of your Class 8 battery electric truck, the Tre BEV. And I believe our dear friend Sam put a little video together. Let's show that. CalSTART, we're a nonprofit organization focused on advancing clean vehicle technologies, and we are so proud to be working with Nikola on advancing zero-emission transportation technologies. At COP26, CalSTART announced 15 countries that have made a commitment to zero-emission commercial vehicle sales, 100% by 2030. There's some hard work to do, and when we're looking at these first of its kind, Class 8 battery electric trucks, it's important that we work with our partners like Nikola to move them forward. So we're seeing exciting times right now, the commitment that we're seeing from states that are saying we need to commit to zero-emission truck technology adoption. The momentum is building. Now we just need to make sure that we're creating the partnerships, the incentives, and the policies to really move this industry forward. So we're so excited to be working with you, and your partnership is going to be critical to being able to meet these zero-emission transportation goals that we have in front of us. So thank you guys for letting us be a part of this. And
thank you for being such a great driver. Yeah. You did great.
Yeah, I'm not jealous at all, Alicia, that you got to drive that.
That was pretty cool. Thanks, Alana.
Well, and I will just say, and so that is cool, and that is a beautiful looking truck. I will just also say, Heidi, CalSTART and Amply have just worked together on a report on managed charging and the benefits of managed charging. And it's interesting because the report actually came up with an acceleration of the fleets interested in electrification, but they aren't always as aware of how they can help to actually manage that charging for their business benefit. So thank you guys for that help on that and pulling that report together, which is, I think we'll put the links in our website and in the chat function here.
Well, and I think that's almost a wrap for today, Bill. Thank you so much for this great program. And I know we have some important events coming up too. We have our Federal Policy Forum coming up tomorrow, which is for our CalSTART members. And then we are going to be bringing it closer to home in California, where we're going to have our State Policy Summit on February 10th at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. And throughout this event, we're going to make sure we're focusing on driving results and putting out innovative, forward-thinking solutions on how we can meet California's ambitious climate goals and zero-emission vehicle targets.
Yeah, both very important. And if you haven't signed up yet for members, please sign up for our federal policy event. But for now, Alicia, as you pointed out, it is a wrap for today, but a great preview of the work and the topics ahead for this year. Thank you all for joining us so much today for our first CCTU of this year. In 2022, we plan to push hard for an ambitious federal policy, as you heard, for faster adoption of zero-emission vehicles, spurring economic growth, and really driving to get cleaner, healthier communities much faster, because we need that. We're in the midst of big change. It will take a lot of hard work, but the CalSTART team is ready to push forward. And you saw our new policy director. We're really putting the tools in place to do it. But that's it for now for this month's show. Thank you all, as always, for joining us here on CCTU Tuesday. And as always, I'm Bill Van Amber.
And I'm Alicia Gildy. We look forward to seeing you for our next episode of CCTU on Tuesday, February 22nd. Until then, make sure to stay connected with us on Twitter at CalSTART and register for our upcoming webcasts on our website. And Bill,
we will
CCTU soon.